Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to go ahead and get started on the meat of our class for the second week. I hope that everyone has installed their software, and if anyone's having any problems, for sure let me know so we can get that taken care of. But don't expect a whole lot this second week either. Again, it's more important that we get things up and going and we're on a smooth pace before we really get into some of the more complicated aspects of utilizing this software and getting into some of the meat of GIS principles and practices. That being said, before I get too much into the first two exercises and your overall assignment and how to turn it in, I did want to briefly touch on why we're using Esri's software as opposed to something else. And the simplest reason is because it's very Windows friendly and it's not necessarily user friendly. You might find, just as I do every day that I use it, you get very frustrated because something doesn't work like it's intended to, or it's not as intuitive, especially when you're trying to get advanced things done depending on what you're working on. But as far as the basic workings of this program go, it's very nice. It's a good learning tool, and you don't have to have the engineering experience or utility experience. You don't have to have any advanced programming experience to feel comfortable and to quickly familiarize yourself with how you might get a GIS task accomplished. And that's what I learned on. That's what quite a few universities in the state and around our region will start people off on. So that's why we're using Esri's software. And again, like I briefly touched on in some of the other videos I've made so far, using this isn't the end all be all of GIS programs. A lot of the principles and the things that I really want to focus on will be applicable if you use other programs. So if we get the principles and the cartographic tendencies and best practices in your toolbox, then you can take them and move on to whatever software you might utilize in your work or wherever else you might use geographic information systems. So that's why we're sticking with this program for the time being, for an intro class anyway. And as far as your assignment goes, what I want you to do is work through chapters 3 and 4. And there's a lot of pages there. But trust me, it's a lot of pictures, and this stuff goes really fast. You have until next Sunday to get it done, so just take your time and work through it, because the third chapter gets you familiar with the main ArcMap module. Just here's where you click to get your identified features button going. Here's how you save a map. Here's how you bring up the information in the different layers. It explains what the layers are, and then it goes into your Arc catalog introduction, which is the fourth chapter. So you'll be going into Arc catalog, which is it's kind of a background program to ArcGIS and ArcMap. It allows you to manage your files, give your files metadata, and that's super important, so we'll get to that. But right now, it's just important that we kind of know how to click our way around, which is a really terrible way to say it, but essentially that's what we're going to do. We're going to get familiarized with the program this first week. So every chapter in the book has exercises, and some of them are not going to have you do a whole lot, but some of them are going to be pretty involved, and you're going to take an MXD, which is an ESRI map document. That is what the extension for the file stands for, and you're going to alter it quite a bit. That's what you're going to turn in. So I've posted on Blackboard. It says when I actually put the assignment up, all you're going to have to turn in are the MXDs. So you have 3 MXDs to turn in. They've started you off with the file, and it's on the CD when you install it. When you get your book, the instructions in the book will tell you how to get to it. But you would do the exercise, and like step 22 for exercise A on page 33 says, if you want to save your work, navigate to a specific place, and that tells you what to save it as. The only thing you're going to do differently is change the name. Instead of my underscore ex03a.mxd, you're just going to turn it to your name, whatever your name is, and turn it in as a file. So you'll have 3 things to turn into me before Sunday of next week, and it's the first 3 or the first 3 exercises in the 3rd chapter, and I'll write that down, or I'll have it posted in the 2nd week when I get this video posted and the assignment posted. But like the 4th exercise, or the 4th chapter and those exercises, you don't have to turn those in. I want you to do them, and you may need to do them for reference on future exercises, but that's something you don't have to turn in. So I'll have it reiterated, and you'll read in the week 2. I'll have it posted up here. It'll be another assignment, but you'll have 3 documents to turn in, and what's going to happen is you give me that, but I have the same files that you do, so when I open it up, if you did everything correctly, then it should look like mine, and I'll just be able to say, okay, you guys are getting it, and now we can move on. So this first week, again, is just to kind of get our feet wet, so don't worry about it being really complicated or having to do something or being fancy. I just want to make sure that you're going through the exercises, and this is more or less an exercise in turning in assignments, so that way we've got that down, when you should be later on focusing on actually doing some spatial analysis or moving things around in a more complicated manner. So there's that. And I don't think that you have to worry about anything else. We're not going to have a test for a couple weeks, and I'm going to go over that in depth. And then after we take the first test, I'm going to go ahead and post the information on your final project. And I actually hope that you all have fun with that. I think it'll be pretty cool. I'm going to use essentially an offshoot of what my first GIS project was in the first class I took, and it was pretty neat. So I look forward to that. And then if anybody has any questions about week 2, as always, just shoot me an email, and I'll do my best to get back with you as soon as I can. So the only thing, I know I said I was going to kind of add a few of my own anecdotes, and again, this first week is it's very introductory, but what I could say that I would want you to pay attention to is when they're telling you to, or when they're pointing something out, like in particular, they go over a lot of things really quickly. So in 2 chapters even, they just say, well, okay, you have all this data, you have point data for the cities that Amelia Earhart visited, you have line data for a flight path, areas of disappearance, then you've got your countries and this gradical, and some of you may be like, okay, well, I get that, or I don't get it, but I don't care, or whatever your take on it is. I don't want you to go through and just be like, okay, I went through all 22 steps, got it done, got an A on my assignment, bam, I'm done. Because there's a lot of things you could miss. The book doesn't go over how important it is to not just slap all this stuff in here, because it wasn't just by luck that this came out the way it did. And when you look at it, it looks really good. I think it gets the point across, but you could do something really simple, like put these in the wrong order, or I know I'm doing a lot of clicking, and I don't expect you guys to follow along too much, but you can change things really quickly and really easily. And if you're not sure why you're clicking or what you're doing, and you're just following the instructions, you can easily get something like this, and you've got all the right data, and you know what you're talking about, you've read the instructions, but it doesn't get your point across very well, because, well, when you look at it, okay, I can see the line, but I can't see the cities and their locations, and it's something as simple as how you put the data into the table of contents. And if you needed the lines bigger because you want to kind of draw it out, but you don't really like how that looks, there's a lot of different options and subtle changes that you can make. For example, if you go into properties for any layer, and this applies to points, lines, and polygons, and go to display, you can change the transparency of these at different layers. So even if you did have the flight path above it, maybe that's what you were going for. You're more interested in highlighting the flight path as opposed to all these cities and the other information. It just depends on who your end user is and who's going to consume the maps, and those are the kind of things that I'm going to hopefully point out to you, and that a lot of people don't think about. I work with a lot of engineers, just as a quick example, that don't think about these things, and I'm telling you, I'm not an engineer myself. I'm a spatial analyst and a tech guy, computer guy. But at the mine I work with, just as silly as that might have sounded to you, the explanation I just had, it's like, well, that was kind of ridiculous. All he did was drag one piece of information above another, but you'd be really surprised how few people in a lot of industries don't think about things like that. So they're used to seeing and consuming maps and information that are not optimized to get their point across. So I hope that that makes sense and it's not too much of an overload at first, but we really want to try to focus on, why am I doing what am I doing, and are these in the correct order that they need to be for me to get my point across? Who is my end audience? What kind of considerations do I need to have for them? And if you got group A that's going to consume your map, but you've also got someone else, a different group that's going to consume the map later, just look at it or use it, hang it up, use it for plans. You might need to alter it altogether and say, well, they don't care about the flight path, they don't care about the cities, they're just worried about at the end here, this convergence or divergence of two different paths. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just, okay, here's all my data, slap in the table of contents, make a map, and out the door it goes. So try to really kind of think about how it might apply to you and anything that you're interested in also, because you'd be surprised how I guess advanced GIS can really make analysis and interpreting, or yeah, I think I said that right, interpreting data. It can put a huge spin on it and make people see things in a different way or ways that they've never considered it before. So go ahead and take your time, work through chapters 3 and 4, look to the assignment on what you need to turn in, and if you have any questions, just let me know.